Hey friends, it's RSKT, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at another third-party module, the 2Auto over here. The 2Auto is made by the same maker as the Euclid grid, so that's Kayaa, and it's a really fantastic module. I thought I would start off with this demo patch because although it's quite simple, I think it's really beautiful. Basically, we have all of these sounds being processed with the deluge, and then that's moving over to the Zoya, which is providing a granular effect and a whole reverb. So if you're interested in what this sounds like, I'll just switch this off now. So it still sounds pretty great on its own, but yeah, that pitched up granular effect just really adds to this. Just like the other videos I've been doing lately, this is going to be a general overview of 2Auto, and we'll explore some different ways to patch with it. And then at the end of the video, I'll include a few demo patches so that you can hear this thing in action with everything else. Also, sorry if I sound a little bit different in this video. I'm battling a pretty heavy cold at the moment, but I really want to get this thing out because I've got a lot of other videos in the making right now. You'll be able to hear that intro patch in full along with the other demo patches at the end of this video. And if you're liking these AE Modular videos lately, please consider subscribing and liking the video. Anyways, I'm just going to unpatch all of this now so that we can start from scratch. So let's go over what 2Auto is. Essentially, whenever you twist one of these knobs, you generate CV values. You can then take the output of that CV and plug it into anything you want. What makes 2Auto special though is that you can also loop these as well as trigger them manually or separately from something else. So for example, I'm just going to plug the output of my wasp filter here into A on my mixer. We'll take the square wave output and plug this into our wasp filter. Now, if we turn that up, great. So why don't we take the output of the output A on our 2Auto here, and we'll plug this into the CV input on our filter. And we'll adjust that just by allowing a bit more influence. So now we can twist this knob. Cool. Now we generated some CV values, and we can trigger that with this button. Pretty neat stuff. Now obviously we don't want to have to keep pushing that button every time we want to trigger it. You can trigger this from an external source, we'll get into that in a second, but there is this handy loop switch under here. So if we activate that, it's essentially looping our knob movement. Now it's important to keep in mind that whenever you knock this switch or twist it in any way, it's going to overwrite what you've done already. So if we activate the lock switch here and turn this up, I can turn this knob during a performance or accidentally bump it by mistake. That's fine. It's not going to overwrite what we've got there already. So now let's talk a little bit about triggering. I have this basic drum beat on my deluge here. Just a simple 4 to the floor beat. And we essentially want to make this filter opening and closing kind of loop in time with our drum beat. So if we turn this volume up a bit, and I'll just turn off the sidechain. We can hear that it's not really lining up. It's kind of giving us more of a polyrhythmic kind of thing. So essentially we want to trigger this at the start of every bar. One way to do this would be using our clock divider down here, which is synced up to the deluge MIDI clock. We're going to take that out and plug it into our Euclid grid down the bottom here. And if we hit clock on this, we can see that I've already got a sequence set up where it's just triggering the first of 16 steps. So we're going to take the output of D here and we'll plug it into the trigger input of A. So now basically every time it gets back to the start of this sequence, it's going to trigger our to order again. Have a listen. So we can twist this around and generate new CV patterns any way that we want. But we can also rest assured that every time it resets to 16 steps, it's going to loop whatever we make. So yeah, that's obviously pretty handy stuff. So now that we've explored that a little bit, let's take our bus clock output and plug that into the sync input. Now you want to make sure that you've got sync activated on the switch for this. So if we turn this, we need to make a new CV pattern. Find something that you like. Great, so now that we have that looping, I can take the tempo knob on my deluge down here, and if I increase or decrease the tempo, this should increase or decrease with it, which is really, really cool. If we increase the tempo now, so being able to sync this up with your other gear is really, really fantastic. I was making a lo-fi track on this one day and I realized that it was way too fast, and yeah, quickly being able to switch to something being synced like this and then just sort of twisting your tempo knob on your external gear and everything staying nice and in time. It's just fantastic. I really, really love that feature. So yeah, I mean, that pretty much summarizes everything that you can do with 2Auto. You've essentially just got 2 of these to work with, which is really, really cool. Before we dive into the demo patches though, I just want to sort of demonstrate one other way that I've been using this to help generate unique sequences. It's going to patch things up a little bit more differently here. Just going to make sure that we've got a VCA coming into our mixer. And then what I might do is this time I'll use one of these square wave outputs from the new 555 I've got sitting over here. We'll make sure that is going into our VCA. And I'm actually just going to switch this to be a sine wave. I haven't experimented much with that, so it could be really fun. We'll just quickly set up an envelope. And to trigger the envelope, I'm going to use the B sequence over here. And let's just fill it with every single step. It's going to be really, really fast and quick. Something like that should get the job done. Now, there's multiple ways that you can go about doing this from this point onwards. I've been having a lot of fun plugging the output from 2Auto to the input of a sample and hold. And then we'll take that same B sequence over here and we'll trigger our sample and hold with that. So you can see that this light is sort of glowing up and moving around a little bit with the 2Auto over here. So rather than having a smooth curve of whenever we adjust this knob, now it's just pretty much giving us like a stepped output based on the triggers from our Euclid grid over here. If we were to just take the straight output from our sample and hold and plug that into the frequency input of our oscillator, it's going to sound a little bit strange. Although it does sound pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty great already. What I like to do though, is we'll unplug that for now And let's plug it into an attenuator, just so that we don't have to go all the way up and down the octave range whenever we're twisting our knobs around. And of course, just to hear what that sounds like, we'll take the output of that and plug it into frequency. So yeah, I mean, we can even open this up all the way as it was before, or we can kind of tighten the range of notes using this. But rather than going straight into the frequency, what I like to do is load up a quantizer on the EuroPi over here. So I've got one ready, and it's pretty much in a C Dorian scale with a couple of different notes removed. So we're going to plug this into the analog input, and we'll take the quantized output from this and plug it into our frequency. You could use a different quantizer for this, but at the moment, this is the only one that I've got. You might hear like a few sort of wishy-washy slewed notes if you really pay attention to this. So one way that you can get around that is by triggering this every single time it happens. I mean, you could use the envelope out for this essentially. But what I might do is just make a multiple of our purple sequence over here. So we'll mult that and whack that back into our sample and hold. And then we'll take another copy of that and we'll whack it into the digital input of our quantizer here. And then on this quantizer in particular, we can choose if we want to use a continuous mode or a triggered mode, which if you activate triggered and switch back to your quantizer, it's now going to jump notes whenever it receives a trigger from the Euclid grid. So we can now twist this around and just generate endless sequences. It's perfectly synced with our deluge clock, and we can turn the drums back on. So we can drop this a little bit. We can open up our range of notes. And I'm really just showing off at this point, but we can take an output and plug it into either the linear or exponential input of this and start getting some cool FM modulation. Finally, we could use our second to auto down here. Again, we'll switch this to loop and synced, and we could control the filter cutoff using this one down here. And then finally, we could take a duplicate of our trigger down the bottom here for sequence D, and just make sure that it's triggering trigger B up here. Let's apply some processing to this using the Zoya. And we We could even just change this from 16th notes to anything else that we want. So yeah, as you can see, it's just a really fun and creative way to come up with different sequences and melodies and all sorts of really fun, crazy things by just running everything around like this. It's great inspiration for creating loops, and then you could essentially use an external looper like the deluge here to loop something that you like and to continue to build off that with a future project. Anyways, I hope that has given you some sort of inspiration with what you can do with this module. Obviously, I've used the 555 and the EuroPie here, which I haven't really made a video on either of them yet, but I do plan to do the 555 next and then hopefully tackle the EuroPie because it is so much bigger than the 555. This thing's like trying to cover 20 modules in one. But yeah, I think I've pretty much covered just about everything you can do with this. If you have any other ways that you've been using the 2 Auto, I would love to hear about it down below in the comments section. As usual, feel free to stick around for the demo patches at the end of this video that are about to start playing. Hit the like if you like, and if you don't, tell me why. Please subscribe, check me out on Patreon, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.